There we
Hey,
go.
we did
We
it!
did it. Okay.
Yay!
It's happening. I was
It's
like,
happening!
oh no.
Woohoo!
What? I was like, they're trying to censor us. I'm a
That's
conspiracy.
right.
You never know.
That's so right.
You never
Mhm.
know. I think. You know what I'm saying? Okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
So we have a ton of people joining us. That's awesome. Um,
Yay!
yeah, so I want to start by saying, first of all, thank you for being here. Fun fact, we have never like no
Yeah.
we
We
have
never.
never met
No.
like like
No.
this,
No.
like face to
No.
face. I have never heard your voice, like never, like just obviously social media,
Yeah.
Twitter, Instagram, and things like that. So that is, but that's hilarious because I still consider you part of my community, even though
Yes,
we
and you of
never
mine.
like spoke. That's I don't know, that's just fascinating. But for those who don't know me, my name is Isabel Garcia. I use she, her pronouns. And I am the founder of Estoy Aquí, which means I am here. And basically, I provide training, workshops, healing circles, all about the connection between mental health, suicide, and social justice. So, yeah, I want to give you a chance to introduce yourself as well.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Definitely, I feel a kindred spirit, shared experiences that have connected us together. And basically, it's just like we can't stand like suicide prevention month campaigns and how they exclude us. And I just love that we just bonded over this shared annoyance, shared hate. But I'm Imadé. I'm the founder of the Press While Black. It's a 501c3 nonprofit,
Mm.
and we provide Black affirming personal care items to psychiatric patients, and we connect folks to Black therapists.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. And I have been following you for a while and seeing the work that you do with hair care in the psychiatric hospital. And I was like, holy crap, like, which is connected to what I talk about in terms of the importance of hair care in our communities and how that is a vital part of our mental health. It just is. But, and that's another topic that we can talk
Yes.
about for hours.
Yes.
But
Yes.
I want to start by saying that the reason why I want to talk about this specific topic, the hotline topic,
Mm-hmm.
and like, what are we doing basically as a society with this hotline thing? I have wanted to talk about this for a long time. It's just that I never got the guts to actually go and publicly say it because I'm always afraid of retaliation
Yeah.
and powerful people behind all these organizations. I don't know. Like, based on my social location, I don't know, like, what to expect from these people.
Yeah.
But, a lot of what I call co-conspirators, a lot of people who have similar beliefs to mine have come out on social media saying, like, speaking their truth. And I saw a tweet of yours. I don't know it verbatim, but I know I remember it said something like, "Oh, you have housing problems? Here's the 988 number," and that kind
Exactly.
of sparked this
Mm-hmm.
thing on me. I was like, "Oh yeah, we gotta talk about this because
Mm-hmm.
you you said that for a reason."
I did. I did.
Right, right. So I just wanna, and maybe we should start there because I
Yeah.
know we have like a lot of things that we wanna
Yeah.
address. But maybe we should start there with that tweet. Like, I'm wondering now what led you to write it, right? Like, to just hit tweet or to hit post. What
Yeah.
was it?
So I live with depression, anxiety, and borderline personality disorder. So BPD is probably the reason why I'm so chronically suicidal. And so
Mm-hmm.
what happens is I deal with mental health professionals who are really great with me, are really supportive, and then it's like the moment I get suicidal, it's like they just freak out and they just like don't know what to do, and they're just like their hands are waving and all they really do is like, here's 988. Like they just throw it in my face, like here's 988, like here, just do it. And then like, and you're just like bombarded with this 988 number, right? And it's like
Mm-hmm.
they're not even questioning what's making me suicidal. They're not responding to the structural inequality that I'm dealing with. They're not asking about that. They're not talking about white supremacy and how my first attempt was because I couldn't find a job in New York, like, and because I couldn't find a job in New York, that meant that I lost my housing. And so I'm
Mm-hmm.
suicidal because as a Black woman, I don't have equal access to employment the way that white folks do. And so, a lot of the times when I think about, and I think about the suicide hotline, I think about times when, somebody told me, "Oh, have you tried going for a walk?" You're just like, wow, I never thought of it. Oh my gosh, thank you. Oh my gosh, walking. Who would have thought? And so, I think a lot of people who recommend suicide prevention hotlines don't use them. And so they're thinking that it's this great service that people should use, but people who are chronically suicidal, we're frequent flyers. We use these hotlines a lot. And so there's a disconnect between them saying like, oh, this is a great service, to us actually experiencing this good service that they say that we have. And I remember being part of a mental health first aid training,
Mm-hmm.
and I told the trainer, I said, I called the suicide prevention hotline, and the counselor was trash, and I didn't know what to do. And the trainer in the mental health training was like almost shocked, like taken aback. She was like, "Oh, like
They
it was
don't.
like she never, it didn't occur to her that like you could have a bad experience at a, like with a suicide prevention hotline." And that's when I was like, "Oh wow, like these people, like a part of the mainstream mental health
Mm-hmm.
industry, these people have never used the services that they say are so great. They're just giving it to
Wow.
us, but they never used it." And
Mm-hmm.
so that's why, I feel personally, and many people in my community feel, is that like the people with the lived experiences, we need to be the ones talking about these hotlines. Like we need to be the ones that are talking about what resources folks can use, like not the folks who never use them. So that was kind of the key entry
Hmm.
point, yeah, in the suicide prevention hotlines.
Yeah, wow. Thank you for sharing, by the way. There's something, wow, there one word that came up for me as you were talking about your experience is the word band-aid. It's almost like you see a deep, like a very deep wound, and it's like, here's the
Exactly.
band-aid. So
Exactly.
988 hot any hotline, not
Yes.
just not just
Yes.
hotlines. It's like a band-aid. Like,
Hmm.
I don't know what to do. Therefore, here's this number because I'm
Exactly.
scared. I don't know what to do. And here's this
Right.
number.
Yes.
And it feels so dehumanizing to me because it feels like, also, you don't want to talk to me about it.
Yes.
Do you just close this conversation? Like, is this your limit? And I get it. People have boundaries. Like I totally
Hmm.
understand that some people are like,
Hmm.
this is like a out of my
Yes.
my
This is all
like
I can do.
I'm not saying that people shouldn't have boundaries. I'm saying that there are ways to really say, hey, I'm gonna be transparent with you. My heart is racing right now. I'm like getting scared because you said the word suicide. And this is not about you, but I'm just telling you how I'm feeling right now. And I feel like I don't know what to say or do. I just know that I'm here right now. Like I wish people.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wish that
Yeah.
I had a provider who would just talk, like tell me,
Yes.
like just be transparent
Yes.
about it.
Yes.
But yes, that and the thing about when you say about walking,
Yes.
the thing with that too is another. That's another thing that annoys me because I'm not saying that walking outside doesn't help. I'm saying that, do you know if the neighborhood I am in is safe? Do you know if the street is even like? Do you know the pavement on my street? Do you know the zip code? Where I do you know that information?
Hmm.
So
Hmm. Hmm.
when because I have been told by providers to like walk, like to
Yes.
go outside, and I'm like
Yes.
I cannot do
Yes.
that because
We
it's
don't have
not
sidewalks. I
like
live in the
safe
South.
for me.
Yeah.
Right, sidewalk is not. and there's not enough like lights, like
Yes, yes,
so it gets dark out. I
yes.
cannot, but they don't even. Many providers don't think about the
Mm,
structural piece of
mhm,
all of these
mhm.
so-called coping strategies or whatever. That's another
It's a
topic
whole
too. Oh my God,
other
we can
topic.
just go into so
Yes,
many.
yes,
Man,
we can.
listen, but I love. Again, I appreciate what you share and also this point of, oh my God,
Mhm.
are you even using the resources that you are
Yes,
suggesting to us?
yes,
What?
yeah,
What?
yeah.
That is
It is
huge.
huge,
Huge.
huge.
And even let's say that you don't use them, but do you know what you're telling people? Like,
Yep, yep.
what is informed consent? Like, do you know?
Yes,
Are you telling
yes.
people the advantages and
Hmm.
disadvantages of using these
That's it.
resources?
That's
Are
it.
you giving them a heads up?
Yeah.
Because I'm not saying, by the way, I'm not
Hmm.
saying
Hmm.
don't call hotlines, don't call
Right, right. We're
988.
not saying that.
That
Yeah,
is
yeah.
not what we're saying.
Right.
We're saying that we have to be aware of the shortcomings
Yes,
and the
yes,
deadly
yes,
consequences of these resources, so that way you can make your choice, because it's your
absolutely.
choice. This is
Absolutely.
autonomy, right?
Yeah. And
um yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
I tell people to have multiple numbers to call, because the counselor may be so trash, and it may make you like more suicidal. So you need to get like another number to call because the other one didn't do well. I remember using 988, and the counselor was like so rude to me and so mean to me
Hmm.
that I literally wanted to keep myself alive so I could fight her. I was like, "Oh, thank you for giving me the will to live. Now I want to fight you." Like, that was like,
What?
she
Thank
was
you
so
for waking
rude.
up.
Yes. I
Waking me
said, wow,
up.
I want to live now so I can fight you.
Bruh. That is
Yo.
so real.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. There sometimes some counselors, and like this is not always the case, but I've dealt with a counselor before who was almost like daring me to do it, and almost like in a sense of like, well, like what she gonna do? Like like that attitude, and we can pick up on that. We can really pick up on somebody almost saying like, well, what,
What's next? Like
what?
what's
Yeah, and I'm just like, wait, do you want me to die? Like sometimes there are sometimes people who come across counselors who are that rude and that mean. And I do think we
wow.
need to acknowledge that there are some people in suicide prevention who actually hate suicidal people, and they need to be out, like
Bro.
out of that industry, out. Like there are people in suicide prevention who hate us. They hate us, and they think that we should be punished for being mentally ill. They think we should be punished and we're not worth saving, because and it's so sick, and it's just it's not it's really bad, and I think we need to really call that out, because what's happening, is stories of people attempting after calling suicide prevention hotlines. And we
Mm-hmm.
need to talk about this because it's terrible, but for me and for a lot of people, we got more suicidal after we called the hotline.
Mm-hmm. Right,
And
which is counterproductive.
yes, yes. And so what I tell folks is I just encourage them to use peer support warm lines. They're staffed by people with lived experiences. They're typically for people who are not necessarily in a crisis state, but in a pre-crisis state. And a lot of times, folks with lived experiences who are handling the calls, they'll talk about what's helped them. And it's not like from the medical model of like, we're up here and you're down here and you need to do this, but more like, this worked for me and I really benefited from this, and maybe it can help for you. So I was going to a conference for my job, and I was
Mm-hmm.
having a panic attack, and so I called a warm line, and she was telling me about like was it 4-4-4 breathing, like inhaling for 4, holding it for 4, exhaling for 4 seconds,
Oh
and how like
yeah.
it helped her, and maybe you want to try it. And so that kind of knowledge sharing, that's kind of like an ancestral technology, right? Us sharing our
Mm-hmm.
experiences, our wisdom. So I kind of, for me personally, I rather call like a peer support warm line than like a suicide prevention hotline.
Mm-hmm.
That's just, I feel more comfortable talking with my peers than folks who maybe have limited training and don't have the lived experiences to really know what it's like to be suicidal or anxious or depressed.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think there are a couple of peer support lines that we can talk about for sure that are considered alternatives to basically literally alternatives to 9AA. And one of the things you mentioned that I want to highlight is that you mentioned how when you have called, you have made like rude, like we're talking about mean responders, or right. And I decided to do like research about their policies because I was like, I want
Mm-hmm.
to know like
Mm-hmm.
what exactly are you telling
Yes.
responders what to do
Yes.
or what to say. And the reason why I did that is I don't know if Leah Harris is in the if they're watching us, but shout out to Leah Harris, who is, I consider Leah a co-conspirator. They are an author, peer supporter, psychiatric survivor, and Leah wrote an article called "You Can't Coerce Someone into Wanting to Be Alive: The Carceral Heart of the 9AA Lifeline," and that is published in
Good to see you.
and this article is in America, which I suggest that to read articles there. And I am biased. I was quoted in the article, but it's a very good article.
I know.
Okay.
I believe it.
It is a very good article because one of the things that it looks at is their so-called safety policy, which they supposedly updated, I guess, in 2022. It is so bad. I swear. I was, and here's why it's so bad. When you read this, and for the people who are curious, you can just put 9AA suicide crisis lifeline suicide safety policy, and you will get like the actual document. If you look at it, it says that this is what it says: that crisis counselors practice active engagement. First of all, that already is giving me panic.
Yeah.
Because I feel like you're gonna do something with me, like you're gonna act on me,
yes,
or something, like I'm an object,
yes,
or like I'm a bomb waiting to explode.
Yep.
And so just that already, I'm like, what? Oh, like no. But what they're saying is crisis counselors practice active engagement, and specifically those to be determined to be at risk of suicide, attempting suicide, or at imminent risk of suicide, right? So here's my thing. They are defining what those things are on behalf of the people that are calling. I have no say. Like, I have no say in defining what imminent risk of suicide is.
Yeah.
Nothing. I don't know. They are doing a whole assessment behind the scenes. An entire assessment. And the people calling, what the hell? Why would they even know what a safety whatever is? Like, what?
Yeah.
They want help. But these responders are being told that they must ask, have you had any thoughts of suicide in the past few days, including today? They have to ask the question. Even if the person calling has, like, it's not saying they're suicidal, nothing. They are required to ask the question, and they have to complete an assessment of safety that includes 4 core principles. Okay? So there's an entire, what I'm trying to say is, there's an entire framework and model that is being used behind the scenes that the people calling may have no clue about, unless you're reading all this shit.
Right.
Okay?
And who has time for that when they're suicidal?
Let me look at the
Yes.
policy behind my
Yes.
We shouldn't have to do this.
You should have to do this. You shouldn't. No.
What? Why would I want so anywho, there are 4 core principles. They look at desire, they look at intent, they look at capability, they look at buffers, which I guess is like the so-called protective factors, like what can interrupt the suicide. But the point that I'm trying, they are asking the questions because they want to get to these 4 core principles. Why the fuck are y'all focusing on this instead of being with me in the present?
That's it.
Why is this shit being prioritized over my words?
Yes.
And what I'm trying to tell you right now.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Yeah.
Like that is one of my biggest complaints about this field. This idea of safety and risk. Are you gonna do it, yes or no? I have to know because I want to save my ass. I want to protect my ass.
That's it.
Because I'm scared, and I have to be comfortable. I can never be uncomfortable. I must always be comfortable. So my thing is, how is that considered help? That's it. I want to stop there. I could keep going talking about this. It's just this document specific makes me really mad. But I want to give you the chance to say something.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, you're touching on this. Like a lot of times, suicidal people, we're not seen as human beings. We're seen as a liability, and so they're trying to protect themselves from a lawsuit or any type of legal action. And so they're more concerned about making sure that they're not held liable for whatever we do. And it's so frustrating that in the time that I need help, in the time I need compassion, care, empathy, that I am basically being smacked in the face with like legalese, legal talk and legal jargon. And it's so frustrating. And I think that is one of my biggest frustrations with the medical model is we're seen as risk. We're not seen as human beings. And we need to call that out. We need to call that out.
Right. Exactly. I feel, and I already said this, like they're treating me like I'm a ticking bomb or something.
Absolutely.
Like, and there is always about, are you going to do it in the next 24 or 72 hours? What are you talking about? Why are you asking me? Like the fact that those are the questions that are being prioritized instead of saying, wow. I wonder what that means. Like when you say death, what does that symbolize? I wonder. I'm wondering because we could talk about physical death, but there's so many types of death, like spiritual. Tell me more. No, are you suicidal or no?
No.
What in the listen? And you mentioned something so important, that liability piece. There are a lot of misunderstandings about mandatory reporting, and I want to highlight another article. And y'all, if you're like, how am I going to find all these articles? Don't worry, I'm going to make a follow-up post. I'm going to tell you where to find all these articles. But this article, of course, is from Mad in America.
Love
and it is about suicide hotlines and how they trace. A lot of suicide hotlines trace your calls, like they trace your calls. Now we're talking about transparency in terms of data and what they do with that data. That's a huge issue, right? And so that it is a very good article. I would encourage people to read it because it obviously centers sleep experience. So they interview people who are like, my call was traced and my job was a jeopardy. And what? What are you talking about? What are you doing with my information when I call? That is a very valid question, y'all. But one thing that I want to highlight for this article, is there's a lawyer called Susan Stefan. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but Susan is the author of Rational Suicide, Irrational Laws. And this person did a ton of research about about laws, like liability in relation to suicide. And they actually found that it's extraordinarily rare for hotline volunteers or staff to be successfully sued for a caller's suicide. Like, it's super rare, and this goes with therapists too. It's super rare that if the client does end up dying by suicide, it's super rare that they will be sued in a court and all of that stuff. But yet there is this belief that no, if you don't call 911, if you don't you will be sued and you will lose your license. And you will. I don't know where this narrative is coming from. I just know that there have been many people coming out and saying this is not really a thing necessarily. So I don't know. This is gonna have to be another life. Like, I have to talk to a lawyer about this.
Yes, please.
But what you're saying about, like, people are scared.
They are scared
of us.
They are.
They
are. And they call cops on us. Let's talk about that. Let's call them.
Cops have been calling me from 4 to 5 different times in less than 1 year. Wow. That was my first year of moving. That was within 1 year of me living in the U.S.
Wow.
And so I'm here. The social workers are asking me, "Are you suicidal?" Well, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was the only word I had at my disposal at the time.
Yeah, for sure.
I guess. Although I have to call 911 because I'm liable. Okay, but can you ask me, like, no, I have to call I have to. There was not even thing about. Are you gonna attend? It was like very immediate. It was like, oh no, I have to call 911.
Wow.
Now, I wanna ask people, how is the presence of a police officer supposed to help me? I just wanna, help anybody.
Yeah.
Anybody, regardless of social location. Why would me looking at a police officer, their uniform, the cars, the lights, their guns, why would that call me? Why would I feel good about that? That's one. Two, let's add race. Why the fuck would a black, and let's add more to it, dark skinned black trans person, let's keep adding. Be okay with the police officer in their home. For what are they gonna do? What is their role exactly?
What is their job?
What? Save me from who? From what? Why? Like, what is happening? Why is it? So now here's the thing with 988. They say, this is what I have read, that the number of involuntarily hospitalizations, the number of 911 calls they have done is very small. But by very small, I think they meant 2% of calls. Here's my thing: 2% is still people. That's one. Two, one thing that was mentioned in the article by Leah is that, and I believe it was Jess who said this, who is another co-conspirator, peer supporter, who said that, okay, 2%, if the costs keep increasing, that there's gonna be more, it will keep increasing. What are you talking about? That is not a good answer to that question.
No, it's not.
It's only 2%.
Only 2%.
That is not a good answer. So I worry a lot. I think that is one of the main issues with hotlines.
Yeah.
This thing about, well, if you are going to do it, if they believe you
Yeah.
will, right? Because it's based on their judgment. That's
Yes.
my thing. Because they ask you all these questions, and based on the answers, are like kind of, it's almost like they're trying to predict the future.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why? Why?
Why?
So
Why?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if you have had experiences with force and coercion in terms of crisis, but I know for a fact that this is common. I keep seeing on Twitter, people keep tagging me like different
Hmm.
things because they know I talk
Hmm.
about this.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I am tagged in when people talk about, hey, I just called 988 and the police showed up. And I told them, what? Like they clearly said no, I don't
Yes.
want. I don't want anybody to come to my home. I don't want
Hmm.
this. And they still
They
did.
sure
And
did.
not only that, they are leaving people with medical bills because of the
Wow.
ambulance, because of the
Yes.
hospital
Ambulance.
stays.
So expensive. So expensive.
So now you're increasing even more
Yes.
the suicidal because now
Yes.
you're putting financial
Right.
strain.
Hmm.
So what the
Exactly.
hell are you all
What are you
doing? That's my thing.
doing? What are you doing? And then you could lose your job being in the hospital because because we don't know what our discharge date is going to be, so we can't tell our boss when we're going to get out. A lot of times they confiscate our phones, so we can't even contact folks unless we're using a public telephone. And like it's it's so ridiculous. Folks can lose custody of their children by being in the hospital, and they're not able to take care of
Yes.
their families. Like it can completely ruin a person's life. Like involuntary hospitalization can completely ruin a person's life. And it's like it's the first thing they jump to. Like why is something that could ruin my life the first thing they jump to as an intervention? It just makes no sense. It makes no
And
sense.
it makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
And I say this all the time. Even if it's voluntary, like let's
Yes.
say
Yes.
the responder is like, I have a we have exhausted all other intervention options.
Yeah.
And the last
Mhm.
option
Mhm.
is
Mhm.
hospitalization. And look, and hospitals, they can really be good, or whatever the
Mhm.
hell they're supposed to say
Mhm.
in the script. I don't
Mhm.
know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that voluntary though? Because that sounds like convincing people, like trying
Yeah.
to get
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
to say
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know. I
Mhm.
don't know. I'm
Mhm.
just saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just saying that sounds like persuasion. Like, are
Mhm.
people really saying yes? Or are you like trying to persuade this person to say yes to this so-called option?
Yeah.
That is one of my big
Yeah.
things about all. There's a power dynamic too.
Yes.
Like, what if you say no to this responder? What does that mean?
What?
Like,
Yeah.
you want help, you're in a vulnerable state. So
Yeah.
I don't know, honestly, if there's such a thing as voluntary
Yes.
hospitalization.
Thank you for talking about
Eh,
that.
Honestly, I don't know. Like in this
Yeah.
context, in the
It's all
hotline context, I'm not
coerced.
sure.
Yeah.
I'm not honestly.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm open to other
For sure.
perspectives about this, but that's a thought that I have had for a while. I'm not sure like how, like if
Mhm.
that's even if it's so-called voluntary, even if that's still not coercive. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
That
that
happened
is
to me.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that happened to you?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, my second time I was hospitalized, they were like, you can either go voluntary or if you don't go voluntary, we'll make you go involuntary and you have less privileges. So I didn't have a choice of going to hospital. Like there was no choice. It was either voluntary or if I don't do voluntary, they're gonna put me in involuntary, and it was a threat. It was a terrible experience. So yeah,
But they're saving your
they're
life. They're saving
saving
your
my life.
life. Because that's the whole thing.
Right.
Safety
Safety
first.
first.
Safety. Well, guess what? Your
Yeah.
definition of safety is not
Yeah.
the same as it's mine.
Absolutely.
What the
Absolutely.
hell?
Makes no
Like,
sense.
let's talk also about
Makes no
what does
sense.
safe mean to
What
me?
does it mean
Why
to
isn't
me?
that
I love that question.
why isn't that question in the script?
Yeah, it
Tell me
makes
what safe means to you. This is
what it
what
means to
safety
me.
means in 9AA, but I'm wondering what safety means for you
That's
though.
a
Like,
beautiful question.
does your definition of safety match ours?
Thank
I
you.
don't
That's a great
know.
question.
But
That's a
let's
great
talk
question.
about that. Let's be
Mhm.
transparent about it.
Yeah.
Like, but
Yeah.
no, because our definition is the definition.
Yes.
That's the standard,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
And that's something that I just cannot stand.
Me too.
Defining things on people's behalf.
Yes.
And another thing, first of all, before I forget, thank you for sharing again, because I know that we're just sharing our very vulnerable stuff
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
And we don't have to, right? But we,
Yeah.
we share. One thing that I'm not sure if a lot of people know, but there have been research about how suicide attempts actually increase after hospitalization.
Yes.
And this is another, I'm going to be, again, creating a post after this and putting all the links to all these articles. But there have been research about this, about how they're, like, we are not just saying this from our lived experience. Like, there are people out there who have been like, let's study, like, let's look at this.
Yeah.
And they have found that indeed, there is a high risk of suicide
after hospitalization.
So, first of all, I'm not the type of person who is like, is there a research paper behind this?
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that for people who are like, where is the evidence?
Yeah.
Well, there is research papers talking about it. So yes. What about now? What now? What you
right
now? Like, I wish our stories were enough, but no, there has to be a research paper for everything. So for those people, yes, there has been studies that say no, this is actually a thing. So listen, oh God, we got over this about hours. I feel like there is so much, more to talk about.
There is.
But I think one thing that I would love to have your thoughts on too, and we already touched on this, but the thing about 9AA is that I believe almost $1 billion have been, like, nearly $1 billion of federal investment to transition to 9AA, because 9AA is the lifeline and has been going on for a while.
Yeah.
It's just that they transitioned to the 3 numbers to 9AA. Right. And so that has cost the country a lot of money. Here's my thing. Why aren't we investing in housing?
Yes. Yes.
My thing is, why aren't we investing in upstream prevention? Like I talk about, and this is an example used in public health a lot to explain upstream prevention, which is, why are the babies falling in the river? So there are babies that are drowning, right? Of course, we want to save the babies. So you have people down the river, downstream, going, taking the babies out of the river and doing CPR. That's great. But why are the babies falling? Where is the source of this river? Let's look. Let's actually put the money into the soccer responders going to the source of the river and be like, oh, this is why, and this is where the babies are coming from. And let's talk about that. Am I saying, oh my God, don't put any money in the, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that we have to prioritize upstream prevention, because if we don't, we are never, ever, ever going to truly have a life worth living for, y'all. Yo,
Absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
again goes back to your
Yeah.
iconic tweet.
Yeah.
I
Absolutely.
have housing problems. Here's my AA.
Here's how many.
No.
That's not it. That's
So
not
I just
it.
wondering, what are your thoughts about this idea of upstream prevention, and like what are the things that we could invest in? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in our community, what we're talking now is saying, housing is suicide prevention, universal health care is suicide prevention, a basic income, a universal income is suicide prevention. And so what we're saying is like what's truly suicide prevention is ending white supremacy. Look at that. Look at that. Like I wouldn't have things to be suicidal if literally white supremacy is over. It's just, but that's the thing. Like I think that suicidal people, we're like the canary in the mine. Like are, we reflect societal failure. So if society is falling apart, we are the ones that ultimately are going to reflect that in our bodies, in our minds. And I think a lot of people don't want to acknowledge societal failure. And so they're silencing us and
wow,
they're disappearing us and they're putting us behind locked doors. Because if you fully acknowledge the concerns of suicidal people, you would have to fully acknowledge the fact that we're in a societal failure. And people
wow.
don't want to, they don't want
Hmm.
to listen to that. They don't want to accept that. They want to think that
Hmm.
things are not broken, things are not, this is not a problem. And I'm like, no, my mind and my body are telling me there is a problem. And actually, they're right. My mind and my body is actually right. So like let's start
Exactly.
there. Like actually
Wow.
it makes sense. It makes sense to be suicidal in a system of white supremacy. It makes sense to be suicidal in the face of a housing crisis. It makes sense to be suicidal in the face of an economic crisis. It actually makes more sense to be suicidal than to be happy and go lucky right now. We actually are very sane. A lot of times we're actually really sane. I'm not gonna lie. Like even though, definitely love my mad folks and we are mad and I'm proud to be mad. But a lot of times we actually have like the most a clear sense of reality in the room.
Oh
And we need to kind of
yeah.
acknowledge that, you know?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Suicidal people are awakened. What
Yes,
the hell? We are
yes,
awake.
we
We
are.
are
We
in
are.
an awakened state.
Yes, we are in an
And
awakened
it's
state.
very
Yes,
overwhelming.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. What? So that's. I'm so glad you touched on that, because I say what is abnormal and irrational are
Mm-hmm.
the systems that we're under.
Yes,
Why the hell would I be
yes,
okay
right.
having to pay? I don't even know how much of a premium for
Yes,
every month for
yes,
insurance. What the hell? Why
yes,
I have to pay like to stay alive or something?
right.
That is so
Yes,
illogical. That is illogical.
that's
Not
illogical.
me
Mm-hmm.
wanting to
Right.
be like,
Yeah,
hey,
yeah,
this is weird as
yes,
hell, and I don't want to be here. What?
yes.
How is that
How's
weird?
that
And so
weird?
I honestly think that the systems of hotlines
Mm-hmm.
reinforce that shit.
Yes,
Like,
they do.
they
They do.
reinforce this idea that, first of all, that we're dangerous or
Yes,
something. Like, we are
yes,
just.
yes,
Um, but what you said that it was so powerful is, yo, like, we represent the fact that society is fucking shit.
yes.
Not because there's something inherently wrong with
Right,
us, but
right.
because we are saying out loud that we
Yes,
deserve
yes,
better. What the
yes. I
fuck? Girl,
know. We.
listen,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
listen.
mm-hmm,
We
mm-hmm.
dare, we dare to
Yes,
say, this is not
yes,
okay.
yes.
This is not okay.
Not okay.
We deserve better.
We do.
Suicidality is a call to action. It
It
is
is.
a call to
It is.
action. It is a policy
It is.
choice. I don't even see it as an individual choice.
Mm-hmm,
It's a
mm-hmm.
policy
It is.
choice.
It is.
So why would someone who is a provider or
Mm-hmm,
anyone on a hotline
mm-hmm.
say, please stay
Yes,
alive, to a trans person who cannot even use
yes,
the bathroom that they want to
yes,
use because a policy
yes,
said that
yes.
they cannot use it?
There
How
it is.
the hell
There it is.
are we asking people to stay?
Yeah,
Why?
yeah.
Listen, we I feel like can speak with you for 1,000
Yes.
hours.
And I would love every moment. I would love every minute.
Oh my gosh, I loved this conversation.
Yes.
Again, there is a lot more that we can touch on
Yes.
this topic of hotlines, specifically 988. There are a bunch of other issues, but I think one of the one of the goals was to plant a seed, or at least start more
Yes.
dialogues
Yes.
in the community about this stuff. And so I think we should definitely have, if you're open, that we should
Yeah.
definitely keep the conversation
Yes.
going
Yes.
in the future, especially as we hear from people after this. Maybe they have, I don't know,
Yeah.
comments or whatever, or
Yeah.
questions. So
Yeah.
I guess to end, um, thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you
It's
for
my
saying
honor.
yes to
Thank you so much
this.
for having me.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
want to give you the opportunity also, if you have anything coming up
Yeah.
that you want to promote, or if you want to tell people where to find you, or I don't know, anything like that.
Yeah, definitely. You're welcome to find me at depressedwhileblack.org. Definitely would love to, support folks who want to find ways to help folks who are in psychiatric treatment facilities. I do want to say that the Wildflower Alliance, they're based in Massachusetts. They created a support group called Alt2Sue, or Alternatives to Suicide.
Yes.
And it's basically a support group where you can actually talk about suicide. Y'all, I know y'all like, yeah, of course you should be able to talk about suicide. No, you can't. Most support groups, most mental health support groups, if you talk about suicide, you get kicked out because they will say it triggers a contagious behavior, and which is so ridiculous. And so most support groups that you can't even talk about it. You can't even talk about suicidality, and so it's so ridiculous that the very thing that is actually like threatening my life I can't talk about. But I've definitely attended the alternative suicide support group. And it did help me when I was really at a low place, to kind of like get that out of my body, get that out of my system, and be able to talk with people who have similar experiences. And so yeah, definitely like highly recommend that as well. But yeah, it is enough? No, it's not enough. Like it's not.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
it's not. So I don't want to be
Right.
like, I don't want to pull like a mainstream mental health model. Be like, and you should be fine after you go to the support group. No, I'm not saying that at all. But what I guess I'm saying is like, you don't have to be alone with suicidality. Like that support group definitely helped me realize like, yeah, I'm suicidal, but I could be suicidal in community. I could be suicidal with my fam, my peers. I can do this together. And so yeah, I definitely want to just encourage that, look into that resource.
Mm-hmm.
And also just hit me up. I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, on Facebook. I love complaining, and I think that suicidal people, we are the best complainers. We are just so great. And also we're very funny. And so I just love suicidal people so much. And so if you ever want to talk to me and you're like, oh, I'm suicidal, like, yes, come talk to me. I love suicidal people. So you can hit me up at info@depressedwhileblack.org
Yeah.
as well. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love this. I also highly recommend the attendances to suicide groups. They were created by I believe, the Wallflower Alliance. And what I like about the groups and the framework itself, is that they hold space for multiple meanings of suicidality, because suicidality is not always about physical death. There can be a lot of different meanings to it. When someone says I'm suicidal, that can mean a lot of things. That can mean I'm fucking exhausted, I'm being exploited at work, blah blah, like, the urgency of emails. I have to answer this, like, blah blah. Like, it can mean of so many things. And what I like about the framework is that it liberates. Like, it's like, yeah, let's talk about what it means to you in specific, right? There's no assumptions,
Mm-hmm.
and there's no
And
risk
nobody calls the cops.
assessments. Right.
Yeah.
There's no risk
Right.
assessments, none of that stuff. Someone, I like this username. The bird with directions is asking, what was the other group mentioned? It was not a wallflower. It was a mass something support? What was it? I
Oh,
forgot.
probably the peer support warm line. Was it that?
Or
Or no?
when you mention, oh, I think they got it.
Oh,
But I think when you
okay.
mention you mentioned all to when
Yes.
you mentioned alternatives to suicide, did you mention another group besides the Wallflower Alliance?
No, I
Okay,
don't think so. Yeah.
okay. But just to finish, and I will put this in the post later. There is also Trans Lifeline.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
it. Right. So there are a grassroots hotline, and they offer emotional, financial support by trans people to trans people in
Mm-hmm.
crisis. So
Mm-hmm.
they do not call 911, police, none of
Yeah.
that. Like they're free of that stuff. There's also the Oregon Warm Line.
Okay.
There's also Thrive. It's a crisis
Okay.
fix line.
Okay.
So those three, I know for sure they don't use like any
Mm-hmm.
coercion or use of
Yeah.
police. Like you said, this is not. Oh my God! Solution oppression
Yeah.
is done.
We're not saying that.
This is just part of the community care web. That it's just part of all the other resources that you might have at your disposal. That's all. That is all we're saying.
That's it.
Y'all, as you know, you can just follow me, I guess. Estoy aquí LLC on any platform: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. And if you want to go to my website and look at the different trainings and workshops that I provide, you can go to estoy-aquí.org. This is what I talk about basically in my trainings, but I have different programs about specifically Latina and Black mental health, others that are more about dismantling white supremacy in crisis responses. I have a bunch of different things that I offer. Yeah, y'all. So I'll see you again next time. Right? Wish me energy and healing so I can continue this stuff.
Love, liberation.
So I can continue to have the guts to invite people and do this stuff.
Healing.
But yes, thank you so much.
It's an honor.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your story, and thank you for using your story to heal others. I'm so blessed just by being here with you. Thank you so much.
Same to you, for real. And I'm so glad we finally talked.
Yeah.
Not just like tweeting each other. Yeah. So y'all, I see you next time. Bye.
Bye.